Hello and welcome to Scribes and Songsters. I'm Veronique Mandel. Today we're talking about books for young people, and our first guest is Windsor author Kootstra, who's written 3 books for young hockey fans. A Canadian top-selling picture book I'll tell you about, The Boy in Number 4, and then the next one I'm not going to tell you about right now. But the book we're going to discuss first is going to be Jay and the Saxophone of Doom. Cara, welcome to Scribes and Songsters.
Thank you for having me.
Now, the boy in number 4.
Yes.
What boy and why number 4?
Well, The Boy in Number 4 is actually a book about Bobby Orr. So, of course, he is famous for wearing the number 4 as a player. And so I kind of worked with him and we created this kind of a rhyming book, and it kind of goes through his life, starting his training at a young age and then, scoring the game-winning goal when he flies through the air that we all know. And so we kind of put him as a child in the number 4, even though he didn't technically wear that number as a kid, but it was just as a way to kind of have some continuity throughout the book. And so, yeah, that was my first book.
So, do you have kids?
I do. I have 2 kids.
How old are they?
I have an 11-year-old son named Nate, and then I have almost 10-year-old. She turns 10 in just a couple of weeks. A little girl named Claire.
So do they play hockey?
No, actually, my daughter is a competitive dancer and my son is a competitive gymnast, and they both play instruments. So no hockey at all. And in fact, my dad was a hockey player. He coached. None of the kids really took to it, so it kind of stopped there.
So what interested you? Were you interested in hockey?
My dad was actually the ghostwriter for Bobby Orr's memoir, and so Bobby knew that I was getting into children's books, and he said, you know what, why don't you come in and pitch me a book? So that's kind of how I got started. And I've just kind of continued on with the hockey books since then.
Well, let's sort of segue for a second back to your father. How did he get to be ghostwriter for Bobby Orr?
Well, my dad is actually very good friends with Bobby Orr. Years ago, Bobby has since retired from this, but he has been working with a sports agency. And so he actually came to scout one of my dad's players when my dad was coaching the Leamington Flyers. And they struck up a friendship. And from there, it just kind of led to my dad writing the book. My dad was a professor at the University of Windsor. And so, it just kind of doors opened and it just kind of worked out.
Did you ever think that you'd write children's books? Some people, right from the get-go want to write children's books, right. And then other people kind of fall into it.
I would say that I kind of fell into writing, to be honest. And I really didn't do any formal writing training at all. I was a musician. I went to the University of Windsor for music. And then I was working for a church, and I was looking at the kids' curriculum that was available in churches, and it was just lame. It was so boring for the most part. So I really felt like, you know what, I could do something with this. I could kind of spice it up. I love humor. If you read my books, you'll know that yes. I love humor. And so I kind of started my writing journey at this church, and then it was my husband who said, you should start to package this stuff. You should start to see if you can market it.
Now, did you run it by your kids, or did you do it and then say, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I really try not to read too much to them until things are finished and complete. It's very funny because people always ask me, like, oh, do your kids think this is so cool? Like, their mom is a published author. They do not. Like, it's not that cool to them. And so when their friends find out that I'm an author, they think that's, like, very, very cool. But it definitely is something, it's nice to be able to kind of get some feedback from them. And
so what do they say?
Well, they'll just talk about their favorite parts. Are
there bits they don't like?
They haven't told me. Probably. My kids, again, aren't that into sports, so it's certainly not, it's probably not the books they would pick to read. But I think it's interesting that they can really hear my voice, I think, in the books. And so I think there's something there that whether that registers to them on a conscious level or not, I think they can hear their mom in there and they enjoy that.
Okay, let's talk a bit about the saxophone of doom, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about Bobby Orr.
Okay.
Because you've got a new book that's
I do.
very much about Bobby Orr.
It is.
This was it was a neat book, and it was humorous. So why don't you tell us about it and why the saxophone?
Well, I really, well, first of all, the book is called Jay versus the Saxophone of Doom. It's about a little boy who loves playing hockey. And of course, because I wrote this kind of in tandem with Bobby, his family kind of has this tie to Bobby Orr. They love Bobby Orr. They're from Parry Sound, which is his birthplace. And, all he wants to do is play hockey. He doesn't want to go to school, doesn't want to do any of these other things, but then he has to learn to play the saxophone in music class. And I think I picked the saxophone because, first of all, I sincerely feel like it is a very difficult instrument to play. As a musician myself, I always felt, I'm a pianist, and you can kind of make a sound on a piano, no matter, it could be a good sound or a bad sound, but you're going to make a sound. And I think with a saxophone, it's a difficult instrument. And so I kind of wanted something that was, first of all, like, a saxophone's very visual. I think we can all kind of picture this kind of big honking instrument, and also something that was going to be difficult for him to learn. And so the book really is just about, trying things outside of your wheelhouse and learning about things, that we can do things, even we don't have to be great at everything, but that we can try things, and you might be kind of surprised with what you get out of it.
Now, the very newest is Bobby Orr and the Hand-Me-Down Skates.
Yes.
So tell me about it.
Well, this is a picture book. So Jay versus the Saxophone of Doom is a novel. So it's for children ages 8 to 12. This is a picture book. So it's going to be for ages 3 to 7, 3 to 8. And it is kind of based on a conversation I had with Bobby talking about wearing these hand-me-down skates. And he talked about his dad crumpling up pieces of newspaper and putting them in the toes of the skates just to make them fit. And then he talked about the first time he ever got a brand new pair of skates. And we had this conversation. I was like, Bobby, this is a book. That is and it's such a relatable story. If you have siblings, we've all had hand-me-downs. And so I love this book. It's so sweet because he kind of gets these hand-me-downs. He's hoping for these new skates, but then he ends up having this kind of relationship with these hand-me-down skates. And the illustration by Jennifer Phelan is just gorgeous, whimsical, nostalgic. I love how it turned out. I'm so proud of it.
Another thing that really strikes you is how Canadian all of this is.
Yes. Absolutely, and I think it is. I mean, with Bobby Orr again, it is so Canadian, and obviously he played for American team as well. So the appeal is just worldwide almost with Bobby Orr. But when my dad first saw this book in print, he couldn't get to the end without crying. He was like, this is what it was like to play Canada. He's from up north. He's like, this is what it was like to play hockey in Canada as a kid. And to this day, I don't think he's made it through to the edge without having a little tear, because it does have that nostalgic Canadian feel. Yeah. And I just love what the illustrator was able to bring to life.
Now, is the illustrator from Windsor?
No, I was actually paired with the illustrator through Penguin Random House, and so they had sent me a couple of samples. She is Canadian. They sent me a couple of samples of her stuff, and I was like, yes, this is perfect. And it's definitely worked out. So,
what do you like about Bobby Orr?
Like as a person, as a player? I mean, Bobby is one of these. He's one of these people who is so passionate about his craft. When he talks about hockey, you can still see the passion that he has for the game, which I just love. And I think I come from a family where my parents really focused on, like, find your passion, find the thing that you love. Bobby loves hockey, and when you talk to him about it, he just really wants, kids coming into the game to love it the way that he loves it. He thinks, the way that it's now kind of almost, parents can try to push their kids and in a way that's unhealthy, or, want them to play in the NHL. And he just really has a passion to convey this idea of just loving the game and playing it to have fun. And so yeah, he's a very interesting, kind of intricate person, and just I always learn something new when I talk to him.
Is there anything in this book that we learn about him that we didn't or wouldn't know?
I'm not sure. I mean, it talks a lot about. He kind of brings the skates through different places. Actually, the page you just turned to right there, he takes these skates when he gets to go and play at Maple Leaf Gardens. When he was a kid, his like Pee Wee team got to go to Maple Leaf Gardens, and then he got to watch the Maple Leafs. So it was a really, really exciting time for him. So a couple of little things that are kind of fed through the story, and we do try as much as possible to keep things as true to life as we can. Obviously, we have to take some liberties sometimes, but yeah, you'll find little kind of nuggets in there.
And of course, you're not enjoying this at all.
Oh, no.
I can tell.
It's one of those things, you unpack that book for the first time, there's nothing like it. It's truly, every book that comes out, I feel like the luckiest girl to be able to do what I do, and I do love it. And I love sharing the story. It's a beautiful story.
And where can people buy the books?
Anywhere that books are sold, so Chapters, Amazon, but buy local. So they have them at the Biblioasis in Windsor. They have the new book, the River Book shop in Amherstburg also sells them. So if people are looking to buy them, please support these local businesses.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, here on Scribes and Songsters, we really enjoy introducing you to local songwriters and musicians, as well as all these very talented authors. So next, we're going to show a music video featuring Fresh Breath, comprised of award-winning husband and wife, Josh and Katie Pascoe. They're two singer-songwriters who've been very successful streaming their music over Spotify. In this video, Josh and Katie perform their song, Time for a Change. Here's Fresh Breath.
Sitting here on a Tuesday, sipping whiskey, and I'm thinking about leaving, but I'm taking you with me. I'm gonna leave all these small town problems behind, 'cause I know they're not your fault, and you know they're not mine. I'm gonna pack up the Chevy and leave it all behind.
Thinking about cracking a beer, and I'm getting kind of fed up with all the mindless drama that's here. Gonna leave all these small town problems behind, 'cause I know they're not your fault, and you know they're not mine. Get the Chevy ready, baby, let's leave it all behind. Take out
That was Fresh Breath with husband and wife team Josh and Katie Pascoe. I'm Veronique Mandel, and this is Scribes and Songsters. Our next guest is Amherstburg writer Stephen Massey, who has published 2 children's books, Chuckles and Boomerang, and Scrubbies, a delightful series about the innocence of a little girl and her very faithful dog. Stephen, welcome to Scribes and Songsters.
Well, thank you very much for having me. This is a real pleasure, real treat.
Awesome. So maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from in our region?
Well, I'm originally from Sault Ste. Marie, born and raised. Moved to Amherstburg 22 years ago. Love it. Beautiful little town. I'm a bricklayer by trade, but now I wash cars. I'm a detailer.
Oh, wow. You're
hoping to retire someday.
Yeah.
Not yet.
So, growing up, were you a big reader? Did you write when you were growing up?
No, to be honest, I hated reading. Mm-hmm. And to a degree, I still do. I know that sounds unreasonable, but I do have a wild imagination. So there's lots going on between these 2 big ears. Mm-hmm. And and later in life, I have an opportunity to share it.
So what interested you about writing for children?
Well, it really wasn't my idea. We were out for supper, my wife and I, at a good friend's, Stephen Johnson, his name's on the book, back in December of 2017. And during the dinner, he brought up the idea that, because of my imagination, that I should write a children's book, at least, make a format for a manuscript. And he offered to do the illustrations, because that's what he does. He's artist, illustrator. And it's funny, after he made that suggestion, I couldn't stop thinking about it.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
I couldn't stop. And within a couple of weeks, I had pretty much the manuscript for Chuckles and Boomerang.
So where did that come from? Did you have any point of reference for it?
Well, Chuckles was the nickname I gave my daughter back 30 some years ago.
Why?
I don't know. Her name's Cheryl, but to me, she was Chuckles. And
did that stick?
It stuck. Like, I had even went to the point of suggesting to my wife that maybe we get her name changed to Chuckles. That didn't go over well. However,
yeah, I bet it didn't.
but that name has always been up there. Yeah. Did we ever have a dog? No. That's a bit of a fabrication.
Did you know dogs?
Yeah, familiar with dogs.
Did you like dogs?
Yeah, I like dogs. But the name Boomerang, it just, for me, in my mind, it fit. It's catchy, Chuckles and Boomerang. And I was hoping my daughter would love it.
And?
She did.
She did.
She did.
Let's go back. You mentioned the other Stephen in this enterprise. He looks like a fellow with a great sense of humor.
Oh, yeah, phenomenal. Phenomenal artist. He can get right out there, too, which is good because we're trying to appeal to young people, young children, and I think we are, clearly. So he can bring my imagination, or the characters that are in my mind, he can bring them to life. So
what came first? Did his illustrations or your words?
My words. I'm happy to say that. And then he took right over. He took my words and put a picture to them.
Sometimes writers put things down on paper, and then it's a process where an artist can read the words and see something entirely different. When he looked at your words and when he brought you the illustrations, did it click right away?
To be honest, it was different than what was in my head, but I love what he did. Especially in the case, initially with the first book, Chuckles and Boomerang, what he did with Boomerang. I just love what he did. And now with Scribbles, I mean, it's the same characters, and as we go on, we'll be introducing more characters. But now here's a book where it really shows how children can enjoy themselves even without having to leave the house or the yard.
What did your family think when you said, "Hey, I'm writing a book"?
Well, the only person that knew was my wife.
So you kept it under wraps?
Yes. We self-published through Amazon, or KDP it's called.
Yeah.
And both my children and their spouses live about 3 hours away. My son and daughter-in-law are near Waterloo. My daughter and son-in-law are just outside of Grand Bend. So, and they all know Stephen Johnson. So I had to ask him to make sure that he wasn't going to let this out of the bag. I wanted it to be a surprise. And the ability to self-publish and then have the publication shipped directly to them, my name's not on the package.
Right.
So this is a shock, hopefully a pleasant shock. But my daughter, she emailed me, because I wanted to know what her reaction was when she received the book. Do you mind if I just quickly read it?
Not at all.
So these are her words. It was August 31st, 2018, so a couple of years ago now. There was a knock at the door. There was a delivery for me, but I knew I hadn't ordered anything. So I made sure to check the name on the package, and to my surprise, it was my name. I opened it immediately. As soon as I saw the name Chuckles, I started to cry, because that was my dad's nickname for me when I was little. Then I saw his name on the book, and I thought, what? My dad wrote a book? I was completely surprised. As I turned the page and read the author's remarks, it was true. I was so touched by the sweet remarks. As I read the very first line in the book, I continued to cry because it brought me back to my childhood and hearing my dad call me Chuckles. This is kind of sad. Reading the rest of the book made me so proud of my dad. I showed my husband the book as soon as he got home, and he too was surprised that my dad wrote a book. We both were so impressed with how good the book was. Kids will love it, and if you are an adult, it will remind you of your childhood and bring you back to that very innocent and special time with your family. So I thought it had the effect that I wanted it to have. I wanted her in particular to be happy. You know, like I said, it's not really about her, but in a way she's the main character.
Yeah. What did your son think?
My son, I had to beg for him to make expressions, but I'm happy to say he's allowed me to take pictures with him in the book, put it on Instagram, and hopefully he'll come around.
Yeah. Now, do you get an opportunity to read the books to children?
I have once.
Yeah. What was that like?
That was kind of unnerving, because again, not having grandchildren, I'm not really used to that. And I'd have to go back a lot of years when I read maybe books to my children. But it was fun. It was different because I know the story. So I'm hoping that I can make it live.
Writing for children, you go to a different space in your head. Does it sort of help you keep that young sense of young and youth?
I think so. Yeah, very much so. I think maybe that's why it kind of appeals to me. Again, the imagination. I don't think of myself as 63 years old, at all. Well, when I get up in the morning, yes, but generally speaking, yeah, it's youthful. It's nice.
How much time do you spend writing?
Probably too much.
Where can people buy them?
Amazon, obviously, Chapters Indigo in Amherstburg at the River Bookshop,
Yep.
which I'm grateful for them for putting it on their shelves.
They're very supportive of local
Yes.
authors, aren't
Yeah,
they?
They've been very good.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
And-
Barnes & Noble in the U.S.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And good luck with the rest of your books. So we'll have to talk to you again sometime.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Well, that's it for another show here on Scribes and Songsters. I want to thank you so much for watching. Thanks to our producers, Brian Sweet and Gary Glass. And thank you to Tony Toldo and the Toldo Foundation for their generous support. I'm Veronique Mandel. I hope you'll join me again, right here on Scribes and Songsters.